Cool. All right. Again, kind of here's a game, here's a drill. Go for it. See what happens. Right. I kind of like doing that so we can discover stuff together. What were some general principles that came out of that? When did your actions work when you were trying to set? What was working when your sets worked? Yeah. Oh no, Taylor, go for it.
Doing it properly.
Okay, doing it properly. Using. Okay, let's pull on that thread. What makes the structure good?
Using the edge alignment, blade alignment, body.
Yeah, sure. We'll build on that. Claire, go for it.
Yes, when it feels like the cut is going straight forward and it's flowing nicely, it's good. When it feels like it's going strongly, like it's going this way and that way, it's bad.
Yeah, so if you're throwing a cut and you're kind of coming across laterally and throwing it like that, or things like that, that is not a completely hard and fast rule of like you has to go incredibly far forward, incredibly long all the time. There are times where that is correct. However, if you take an action or perform an action and you do it in a literally a roundabout way, like if I'm trying to throw a crump how and I kind of come around the side and throw it like that, I'm not going directly to the point where I have mechanical advantage, and that can kind of bust me up because my structure loses alignment. I saw a point. Oh, you just raising your hand with your clip. That's awesome. Dan, go for it.
So knowing when to line and set, I think you taught me when I did the crump to line and then go at the right time.
Yes, yeah. So why did your crump, Jason, do you mind coming out here real quick? Why did your initial crump not work? It didn't really go anywhere. So can you go into an ox on your, like this, and have it be like really open across? Is Jason strong or is he weak? Why? Yeah, his body is out here. His sword is out of line. I have a lot of sword I can take here. What Dan was doing was he was throwing a crump how like this, which is a great move. But then from here, his body was behind the bind. He kind of moved his sword out like this first. Now where's the body in the bind? My body's here, behind the bind here. That's not on the right spot, right? So from going from here, like that was an example of your sword moving and changing position relative to where your body was, and you lost your mechanical advantage. So what was the fix? I came in and was like, all right, you're here. Now you want to force that down, stay on that point and advance up. Now you've held that advantage that you've gained, right? So it's not just about getting advantage with the set, it's about holding that advantage and hitting through it. That's really important. Sorry, we pulled on a long thread there, yeah. Other thoughts or insights? Yes?
I always have this observation of sometimes it's body, sword, body, sword, body, sword.
Tell me more, body, sword, body, as opposed to...
Don't worry about the technique. What I'm saying is sometimes just attack the body, don't try to worry about the sword. It's just something you showed me while we were doing it.
Sometimes that is correct. That's going to be one of the concluding drills of like when we want to do that, but you're not necessarily going to want to just try to set immediately because they might be giving you some kind of structure that you can't set against. But I'm going to move that point forward. I see your hand, but I'm going to move through a point real quick. So what defines where and how you should set on your opponent's sword with advantage? What do you have to read about their structure? Yeah, Claire. Where is their weakness? And how do we read where their weakness is? Yes, looking at their body and their sword, right? So now I have a vision of like, oh my God, instead of going, okay, well, Jason go up into an ox. Well, Jason goes up into an ox, therefore I have to like read through like mentally in Meyer or Danzig or whatever, be like, oh, crump beats ox. I am going to throw a crump how. I can go, wait a second. Yeah, you're weak over here, right? You're not busted over here. I'm going to take strong where your weakness is because I can see where your body and sword are misaligned. Over the control here, I can go for that, right? But if you go back into an ox and it's way over here, do I want to like come all the way around and throw a crump out just for the heck of it? It's right there because I can read where his sword and body is, right? But additionally, this is also where some of the actions of KDF come from in terms of their correctness. Who's heard of the Viervorsätzen or the Viervorsätzen? Anyone? They're the 4 settings on, right? So this, had anyone heard like the combination of like if someone is in ox, you crump against them. If someone's in plow, this is where it comes from, right? The reason why those are the case is because the actions that are chosen present the correct mechanical advantage against the position that my opponent is in. It's not just Shield beats Flug because that's what the book says. It's if Jason goes into a Flug guard and I throw a good quality Shield How, I am going for the mechanically advantageous position that counters his sword body alignment, right? So against Ox, right, the books say if you go up into an Ox, Crump How beats Ox, not just because Crump beats Ox, that's true, that's correct if you do it right, but because I can get a structurally mechanically advantageous position against this position, body behind the bind by throwing a Crump How, right? So this is where the Ver sets in, the setting on setting, that's where it comes from. Absetzen, onsetzen, you read these books, this is what it means. Gain the advantageous position and then hit through. Does that kind of reading make sense to people? Any questions on that? It's okay if there are. Cool. So next what we're going to get into is what we were having some issues with, or not issues, but some questions about right at the beginning of class. Go back into your vom Tag. Who remembers this from a couple hours ago? Throw an Overhow. Who's strong and who's weak? Right? It's unclear. It's hard to know. Right? We have some more language about this, but you know, maybe I end up being strong because I have body behind the bind over here, things like that. But inevitably, there's going to be positions where the swords come together and we don't have clear mechanical advantage. So if we're kind of in a neutral position, what should we do? Well, what should we do in that situation? If we are in a neutral, unsure who has advantage? Thematically. Yeah, Emma, go for it. You could withdraw and strengthen. That's one option. What else could you do? Yeah, Troy.
Could we try to get behind our bind?
You could try to get behind our bind, right? Let's pull on that thread. Grant, go for it. Change the center line. Oh, how would I change the center line on this? Can you go into a speaking window, please? How would I change the center line on this? What do we call that? Winding. Winden, right? Winding, well, let's give a definition for winding. Who has a definition for winding? Anyone know? Claire, go for it.
Literally just wrapping around something.
Okay, wrapping around something, but what in the concept of well, if you have like yarn, right? Wrapping around, how does that apply to fencing?
You can change the center line or change where the shot angle.
Right, it's about changing guards and changing angles, right? And it's the way that one winds is by changing our guard positions, but simply changing our guard positions doesn't necessarily confer advantage. So for example, if we go into this position here where like I'm kind of in speaking window, if I move from this, what is this position if it's at my hip? What is this guard? I'm in Flug, right? I could define winding as I'm going to change my guard and I'm going to go into here. But did that change my advantage that much? No, right? So I want to change my guard position in a way that confers advantage. What is the definition of mechanical advantage or strong? Having control of what? Center line of my opponent. So what is an action that we can do? You showed it before. I'm pushing the opponent's sword offline. I am reestablishing where the center is by moving my center, and I'm putting my body behind the bind. Now who's strong and who's weak? I'm strong, right? What can I do safely now? Advance, right? So there's times where I can read before an exchange happens, oh wait, my opponent has these weaknesses, has these openings, I'm gonna enter there. But if we clash into a position and we're not quite sure who has advantage or not, an option that we have is to say, well, we don't have advantage in this position, but I'm gonna change my position. Ergo I wind, ergo I gain strong position, and then I can continue to advance. Does that kind of logical progression make sense to the group? Any questions on any of that? Cool. So we're going to work on winding. What we're going to do is we're going to get into this position here, like a cross mid to mid. And I want there to be a little bit of pressure from the training partner, like a little bit where you can feel it. Because if Jason doesn't have any pressure on this and I wind into this, just Drexel and does my motion, right? I can potentially have that. I got to know that they're fighting for that strong position, right? if they're sitting there or not, then I'm just going to be like wrong, right? Fight for that strong position a little bit, have a little bit of bite. I'm going to work on stepping offline, reestablishing where that center line is, and changing my guard in the process. So you can do this in all kinds of ways. You can go from flug up into ox. You can be an ox and come down into flug, but pick one of the guards, ox or flug, get into a bind, have your training partner resist it, and push them offline while having that good structure and feel that body behind the bind. Does that drill make sense? Thumbs up. I thought that was a question. Sorry, but thumbs up. Cool. Go. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can start. So if we're bound here, and I'm not sure if you bind up on here, you try to crump into this and it's not quite there, right? You can wind down into that. Yeah. It's a little funkier. The more classic one is flug into ox, but you can wind from any of those positions. So go back to where you were. Actually, how's everyone doing on water? Are we good? Are we hydrated? Could we use let's take a 1 minute water break, just swig some water, and then we'll proceed. Okay?